This is a game in the T49, the new Tier 8 US light tank. This is a game with the 90mm gun. There's two different options for this tank. So there's a 90mm howitzer and there's a 152. This is with the 90mm gun. I will eventually get around doing one with the 152. I think long term I'm going to end up using the 90mm gun though, because I find that at least I get more consistent results out of it. So that's what we're going to be focused on in this particular game. And the 90mm gun is also a howitzer, so the base shell is an HE shell. So I will load heat for this. The heat shells are relatively cheap compared to what heat shells normally cost. It's the HE shells that are expensive per se. And because this is Redshire, fast-moving tank, we're going to go up through the middle, see if we can spot anything. And we'll watch what our dispersion looks like. And the T49 is an interesting tank, even with the 90mm, because it has pretty good soft stats in terms of, you know, the depression and aim time, moving, dispersion on moving and turret rotation, etc. So we will see how effectively we can make a use of it, especially on a relatively hilly map like Redshire. Okay, and one of the things that you always want to note is what your team is doing. Right? We have 3 9s over on this left side over here, T54, E75, STI, or SD1, and at least one of them is moving up. So the more that you can spot this one-line column, the more confidence that'll give them as to what they can or can't push against. So there's 3 9s there, and they're up against a 7 and an 8 so far, so not too difficult yet. And so you don't necessarily want to spook them per se from going forward at this point, because it's, again, like I said, it's a 7 and an 8 pushing into a couple of 9s over there with this ST1 flanking on the side. So you would say that our 9s technically have some sort of advantage here.
It's a trap!
And usually there's a lot of tanks over in this area over here, and on this team over in that sort of G5 area. I usually find it's much better to start further forward. We can only hit his track there, so I switched to the HE shell. The HE shells are the expensive ones. They're basically a Hesh variant with 102 pen. Yeah. But you'll typically fire heat from this in most cases. Again, it's the same rules apply. If you know that you can definitely pen or definitely cannot pen, you want to use the HE. For all other cases, you'll use the heat. So they moved a 1390 into this trench over here. There's a 3002D that will eventually need to be cleared out here, but I'd ideally like to get this T34-3 off the back line first. These guys are pushing up on this one line to the point where their guys on their tank destroyers on that back hill are going to become more relevant. So those guys need to wait until we can clear out this 1390 and the 3002, which with the help of this ST1 and or this T34 we could easily do, but we need them to push in.
It's a trap!
Our T54 has moved forward, but he's one shot, so that's not a very good sign. And our STI is going in around this outside right now. The 1390 is still in there, but I think he's about to run because he recognizes that the STI is coming. Yeah, so the 1390 bailed out of that hill, or out of that ditch, and the STI is going to push the 3002D. So now what I'm really watching for is to cover this STI, make sure that nobody comes up on top of him.
It's a trap!
Because theoretically he could bully this 3002D, but I don't think he's a very good player and he has a lot of difficulties there. Our E75 is getting shots on their back line because they're kind of sitting out there a little bit. And nobody is challenging me on this ditch side. The 1390 is just letting me sit here, so I'm going to get free shots at the 3002 for now. When 3002 does shoot me, I kind of expected the SD1 to do at least one shot of damage, but he was having some difficulties. And eventually the Waffle does get the SD1 down, but our E75 made him pay for it, so that's fine.
It's a trap!
The T34 had moved out there, but the 1390 picked him up. Again, that T34 also wasn't really that good, so it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to deal one shot of damage to the 1390. So we've sort of cleared off this middle ditch area here, but we've already lost our base, so it's more important that I move back and make sure that we can take care of the 2 9s that are inside of our base rather than worry about the 1390 and the 122-44 that are on this side. You know, I've got an E75 in the middle here and the T28 Proto on the 1 line, so I'm not too worried about them just melting. And then in my haste here, I forget that there's a little lip, and I track myself, which is the professional move to do there. This E75 is coming back through the G4, G5 area, which is okay. I mean, I'd rather have him move back than move forward, but he should also be watching to make sure he doesn't get shot on the north, or from the north. We were able to spot this 122-44 moving across, but that was not a very good shot. One of the drawbacks to the heat shells on this particular 90 is that the shells aren't super fast or anything like that. You know, it's not like it's an APCR shell or something.
Hey, wake up.
And so now I'm just looking to finish off this last guy here, and Artie is able to take him out. So we know the 1390 is pressuring the artillery. We don't know where the WZ-120 is. He actually hasn't been spotted all game, which usually means that he was camping back like on that A line someplace, because we spotted most of the guys even on the back of the hill in that sort of D4, C4 area. But the 1390 is kind of penned in, so I'm not too worried about him getting away. You know, we've got 3 guys in that area, 7, an 8, and a 9. I'd rather find the artillery and minimize that, but I need to be somewhat careful here because, again, like I said, we don't know exactly where the WZ-120 is, so you always want to play this like, okay, if I saw him around this corner, what would I do? You know, stay relatively close to some cover, and as it turns out, I'd spot the artillery just sitting out in the open. Unfortunately, he spots me too. It's rather short range. He takes a bad shot, and then I am unable to kill him, unfortunately, and then I lose him in that bush, which is good and bad, since technically he loses me too, but that's more to his advantage than to mine. And now he's behind this set of rocks, so I'm going to switch to the HE. And of course I then immediately hit track. Which again is what the other drawback to this tank is, that because your shell options are essentially HE and heat, either one is not very good against track. So we have full health 1390 coming towards me. I can get relatively hulled down here, so what I want to do is deal as much damage as I can before he gets across. So I switch to the Hess shells so that I can deal increased damage. He's got the clip though, so the advantage goes to him. But, and then he rams me though, and that's sort of the problematic thing, because he basically negated the advantage that he had, which is using his clip, and the difference in damage in the ram allowed me to kill him on my next shot, which was not good for him. If he had just not rammed and gone around me, I would have shot him, but I wouldn't have been able to kill him, and he would have been able to clip me out. So something to keep track of. Overall, I mean, I think the T49 with the 90 is a pretty good tank. It's certainly not as lolzy as when you use the 152, but I think it is certainly much more consistent in terms of the way that you can play it. So I hope that this was a reasonably good primer on using on playing the T49 with the 90mm gun. And oh wait, we got to do stats. I forgot about that part. And so we're able to do almost 4K damage there. Again, like on most maps, the reason why is because we always constantly move and put ourselves into position to get shots, you know, on different tanks. The other nice thing about the T49 is that it does have good pursuit speed, so you can chase people down. Like that 3002 wasn't going to get away from us or anything like that. Similarly, we were able to relocate back to our base, and even if the artillery didn't kill those 2 9s that were in the base, you know, we would have been able to pick them off relatively easily from a distance. And that's sort of the advantage of using the 90, is that you can sort of control the range of the encounter and shoot them from a relatively long distance, which is something that you can't really do using the 152. Okay, anyhow, hope that was a useful primer on the T49, and thanks for watching.